G'day Scarefest fans, Glenn here from fakeshamp.net. Not feeling too good this week, so you will have to excuse the voice. It's not holding up too well. But I have had my COVID-19 test and all clear. Truthfully, I have had it, and if you're worried about getting that whole coronavirus test up the nose, it doesn't hurt. I promise you. Anyway, I'm here once again for another week of Aussie films, and I've got one of the great Aussie films of all time. It is really dark. It is sinister. It's one of the most foreboding films I've ever seen in my life. I think you'll get a kick out of it. Let's have a look. So this film is called Wake in Fright, and it is really hard to articulate this one. I wouldn't be exaggerating to say that it's one of the most horrific and traumatizing films I've ever seen. It's not supernatural and it's not ultra-violent, but it is really sinister and depraved. I mean, take a look at the accolades on the screen as the trailer plays, and you might begin to comprehend what a profoundly significant piece of cinema this film really is. Ironically, Wake in Fright was directed by a Canadian, Todd Cochrane, and it makes sense too because it takes an outsider's perspective to sometimes hold a mirror up to the faces and reflect an unpleasant reality. So of course this is not what Australia is like in general, but like so many of those sort of backwoods redneck films from America, Wake in Fright leaves us stranded in the middle of the outback in a place off the map where locals are beyond friendly. So friendly in fact that once they're in your grip, there's no escaping. This story had already kind of been done back in the 50s with Bad Day at Black Rock, and was done again when Oliver Stone made U-Turn. So that gives you a kind of idea of the depravity I'm talking about. The story itself tells of an English schoolteacher based in a remote outpost who finds himself stranded in a small town on his way home for Christmas. The locals embrace him, but he's unable to escape their hospitality, and then it all culminates in some of the most surreal and terrifying imagery ever put on screen. And again, that is no exaggeration. There are so many haunting images in this movie, but none more terrifying than a nighttime kangaroo hunt scene. It's absolutely horrific. I mean, everybody's drunk, bullets are flying, and our poor English teacher suddenly becomes the hunted. It's really hard to watch, but it's incredibly rewarding. There are lots of famous Australian faces on display here, most of whom were at the start of their careers. You might even recognise some. And the most villainous character of all is played by a classic Australian character actor by the name of Chips Rafferty, who was Australia's answer to John Wayne. And if you love westerns and classic cinema, then go and look at his work. It's so many incredible Aussie westerns that you will never have heard of, right from the 1930s all the way up to this, which was his final film. However, the face that you will all know the most is definitely Donald Pleasence. Of course, he played Loomis in the Halloween series, he played the President in Escape from New York, and then other films like Prince of Darkness, Alone in the Dark, The Great Escape, You Only Live Twice. This guy is a big deal, and this is an absolutely petrifying performance. It's terrifying, like really, really disturbing. And you might have read one of the credits at the start of the trailer that this was a forgotten film. And that is true. Not long after its theatrical release, Wake in Fright vanished. No one knew where a print existed until almost 30 years later, the editor of the film discovered a print inside a canister that was marked for destruction. The film was subsequently rescued and it underwent a massive restoration process and finally found its way back onto the cinema screens and onto physical media in 2009. And here's the best news of all. Wake in Fright is available over there on loads of streaming services. You can find it on Amazon Prime, Shudder, Hoopla, Vudu, and a whole bunch of VOD platforms. And there it is, Wake in Fright. I hope this video has inspired you to go out and find it and track it down because it's just such a special film. Not only one of the great Australian films of all time, but one of the great films of all time. It's something else. Anyway, I also mentioned the director before, Ted Cochrane, and if you recognise that name, it might be because he went on to make films like Rambo, First Blood. He also made Family of Cops with Charles Bronson, Folks, Uncommon Valor with Gene Hackman, and probably most importantly, he made Weekend at Bernie's. And we can be very grateful for that. Yes, we can. Anyway, that's me for another week. Don't forget my podcast, Good Movie Monday. Find it on all the social medias. Give us a like, share us, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We really appreciate your support. And until next week, I'm going to just leave because my voice is fucked. Ciao.